why modern dance? Why not ballet or jazz or something else?
Oh, because I'm a misfit.
Hello, dear listener. Welcome to People We Know, a podcast for my friends and family about my friends and family. Today, I have Fanning with me. Fanning is a colorful music therapy grad student. She's thoughtful and always trying to learn, so she's here to help me pick Sam's brain. Um, Fanning is also like an amazing synchronized swimmer. She doesn't talk about it, but she is, and an amazing musician. She just slays. Um, and Sam, my dance professor, is a dance performance artist, teacher, community organizer, and creator. She has studied a range of focuses in the dance field, coming away with a BFA in modern dance from the University of Michigan, then spending her career soaking up studies in release technique, improvisation, anatomy, and biomechanics research through the Axis Syllabus, and many wanders through travel and nature, before arriving at the University of Utah for an MFA in modern dance. Sam has presented work in theaters in and outside of the US, but prefers enchanting the homes and found spaces that she passes with art and design. Sam is responsible for directing and conceiving 7 evening-length productions, dozens of shorter works, and more than 50 children's dance works. She's also a creator of music, like this song you're hearing right now, clothing, found object formations, and discreetly performs in plays. She also teaches the most fun modern dance class ever. Fanning and I had to take this class for our degree, but I I would seriously recommend it to like anyone. It's just so much fun. She literally had us improvising on like day 1. It was crazy. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, Fanning and Sam. Enjoy. Okay. Hello, Sam. Hello, Fanning.
Hey,
Hello.
Uh, Wait, can you say which one of you is which?
I'm Fanning.
And my name is Sam.
Okay, so I have a question actually for both of you, since this is the question I'm going to ask everyone on every episode. So I'll start with Fanning, I guess. Fanning, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book right now is is Siddhartha by
Okay.
Herman Hesse. I don't know how you say their name.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
What do I like about it? Well, I think it conveys pretty significant life understanding in a very like how do you say nonchalant way,
Mm-hmm.
but also the story is very like descriptive, so it's you still get like immersed into a book.
Hmm.
I feel like it's kind of a you're learning through someone else's experience and not in a fantastical way.
Right. I like that. Okay, Sam, what's your favorite book?
This might be a little cliche, but I'm a big fan of J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, I hate that book.
Did you say you hate that
I
book?
did. Well, okay, I say that. I
Oh,
hated it when I was like a senior in high school and I had to read it. I thought
yeah,
I didn't like him. But I think if I
yeah.
revisited it, I know a lot of people who that's their favorite book, and I think I would maybe appreciate it if I looked at it again. But
I think I need to read it again myself, but it's kind of like set me off on I always like books with crooked characters, like people who are a little bit broken.
oh,
And so that is a great book to start me off on that journey. And now, like most books that I like to read have that set up.
hmm
Mhm.
I feel like that kind of. I mean, I get the impression that's like the kind of dancers you follow too, because I remember in class, I can't remember who it was you showed us, but you said that you liked her because she was so weird.
Valeska Gert.
Yeah.
We could talk about Valeska Gert. Yeah, she's the best.
What do you like about what is her Galeska Gert?
Valeska.
Valeska. Okay.
What a good name. Valeska Gert was this, she's a vaudeville sort of cabaret performer from the 30s in Germany.
hmm
And she would make work about really weird stuff like traffic accidents or death or prostitutes. She was just wanting to make like super crooked character work. And that's so if you watch her stuff, it's very strange.
Mm. Do you think is that like the kind of dance you go for?
I wish I could do stuff like Valeska Gert.
What holds you back?
I don't know.
I'm watching you right now because my screen is showing the dancing, and I feel like it is like weird crooked character vibes to me.
My stuff?
Yeah, I think.
Now I wonder what you're watching.
I'm looking. You're on like a dock. Uh,
Oh, yes. Yes. I like that piece. That's Hysterical Young Women.
mhm.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you want me to talk about it,
Please,
but
please, I do. I want you to talk about.
sure.
I just want you to
Hysterical
yap.
Young. There's there was this idea back in the old days that women were always hysterical or crying because their womb was floating around. And so they would they would do all these weird medical things to try and stop the hysteria, to stop the women from crying. Do you know about it, Fanning?
And it's just the tell-old tale. Blame the woman
Oh, yeah,
for
Yeah,
being too emotional, would you?
I
She's
know.
oh,
exactly.
she's not going through menopause or pregnancy or
Yeah, or
ovary
yeah.
clamping or
Depression.
anything.
I know only two things about hysterical young women. One
Okay.
is the yellow wallpaper, which is that short story of like they send a girl off and then she goes crazy looking at the wallpaper, but it's supposed to make her feel better.
I have heard about that. Yeah.
And the other is from a maintenance phase episode where they talked about how like vibrators were used
Yes.
and invented to like vibrate the bad juju out of women or something.
And if you see them in they're like they're big equipment, they look very medical
Yeah.
kind of thing. So yeah, that's all part of it for sure. But in that piece, I played one of the hysterical young women, and then my friend, she actually played the wandering womb,
Okay.
and she, and she would wander in and out of spaces, always floating around to whale music is the image. Um, and there were other characters in it too, because I like to do characters in my work.
Hmm. So did
Yeah,
you choreograph that?
I did. Yeah, I choreographed it and was in it. The woman that's in it that I play is named Evie.
Mm-hmm.
There's no speak. Well, actually, there was speaking in it. Yeah, there was some speaking in it, but she's a socialite who constantly wants attention and like asks questions but doesn't wait for answers.
Mm-hmm.
She's very like grays over everyone. Anyways, I based it off of a character actually from like Andy Warhol scene.
Hmm.
Um, there is Edie Sedgwick. Have you heard of her?
I have not. Have you, Fanny?
She's very cool, but tragic. And
Mm-hmm.
she's sort of this socialite that's just like laughs, 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 party, 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 but also was like very sad. Um, and, abused drugs and stuff. And she passed away really young. But, anyways, I saw a movie about her and was like, I want to be her because there's some part of me that wants to be like the la-ti-da socialite, life of the party kind of New York loft
Mm-hmm.
artist hang vibe. And so that's where I made a character so I could live her on stage, but not be her, because that would be probably my life going into the pits. And I'm not brave enough, like it's not. I'm a little more of a balance act. So
Mm. Okay. Um, okay, what is dance? Sorry, it's so big of a question.
I know, what is dance? That's a big question.
Sorry.
I would answer like dance is everything, which feels like, am I allowed to say that?
I think you're allowed to say that. You're the expert. What do we know?
I don't know. I and for me, dance is joy, dance is feel good, dance is community, dance is listening to an inner rhythm and an outside rhythm of music or voices of other people. It's movement. Okay, yeah, that's a big one. Um, but it doesn't always have to be big, huge movements. Sometimes it's really discreet and delicious. And I mean, when I think about who I am, me, I'm a dancer. Like, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I identify as. Someone's like, how do you identify? I'm like, dancer. And it like informs everything into how I think about things, my philosophy of life, the kind of life that I lead too. So it's pretty major.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing I'm doing it.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
I see like a lot of your stuff, it's not in like I mean, you've performed in like theaters and stuff, but a lot of times you're just kind of planting yourself like in public and doing these pieces. What
Yeah.
like where does that come from?
Um, a couple of reasons. Like, to be honest, to put your work together and get a theater and get an audience and get dancers and pay for everything is really hard to do. The arts are not supported, especially dance, that well
Mm-hmm.
in the US. And then I also like there is a route that you can take in dance, which is to join companies and that are more well established and you can tour with them and do all of that. Because I chose to go to San Francisco and not New York, there were less of those kinds of companies, although I did dance for some of them too. But anyways, then it came to my work and it was it's like a lot of work to put a theater together, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also started to question it too. I was like, wait, who's at this theater? You
Mm.
know, like who's showing up? And I'm like, oh, it's just all the other dancers. Like,
Yeah.
and we talk about exchanging the same $20 bill around all the time. And so I was like, okay, let's take it to the streets, to people who are not exposed to this kind of thing. And now it becomes sort of something I look for in everything I make. Like, what's the accessibility to it? That's very important to me.
Mm. Like in music we kind of have that problem too where it's like I mean we have more resources sometimes depending on like the size of like I'm thinking like orchestral stuff.
Hmm.
But even then it's the audience are full of like other musicians or like rich white people only.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think there's something beautiful about just like planting your art in the middle of the world, being like, here it is.
Yeah. I used to meet up with a collaborator of mine. He's a vibraphone player.
Uh huh.
He might be in one of those clips actually, but he used to just go and practice outside on the street.
Uh huh.
And sometimes I would go and dance with him and we'd like put a hat out, not really expecting to make much money, but being like, if we're going to practice performing, like we might as well do it where people are.
Yeah.
And so that was me interacting with musicians who are thinking that way too.
Have you ever had like an awkward experience doing that? Like, if people ever gotten mad at you or anything?
Um, yeah, I've been asked to leave places before. Um, but I mean, nothing that felt threatening or anything. I just kind of talk my way out of it from a position I hold. I can kind of do that in a lot of circumstances. Um, I'm not so like people don't find me that intimidating or anything. So yeah, I've had security guards and police officers asked us to move out of spaces, rehearsal spaces, performance spaces. But in general, audiences are pretty chill to maybe think it's funny and take their phones out and start recording. I've never had anyone yell anything at me that I was like, torn up about.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I feel like people. finding it funny. How about that? Because I feel like even in our class, sometimes it's like not everyone buys in because it's like a little uncomfortable to like improvise for the first time or like be kind of like vulnerable, I guess, in the way that we are in our class.
Dance is so underfunded in our country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's funny because in some ways, dance gets more recognition than musicians do. Like I was studying composition and a lot of people didn't even know what that meant. But if I
Mhm.
told them I was a choreographer, they'd probably understand. But even so, like to tell someone you're a dancer, I don't think that most people fully realize that that is your job and your profession and you put your whole life into that. They think
Mhm.
you're like dancing on the side or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like even if there might be more recognition because they know what dance means, they don't necessarily understand what it is to be a dancer.
For real. I mean, even my mom, who's been to a lot of my concerts, every time, I swear to you, every single time she watches something of mine, she goes, I didn't really understand it, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Thanks, mom.
I don't think most people here understood it.
Is there understanding it? Like, is there a right answer, or is it like people receive it how they want to?
I think the latter. I mean, and yet it's a big ask to be like, hey, audience, you get to want what you want. You get to see what you want to see. You get to choose your own story. Like, as freeing as that seems as a concept, if you hand it over to people, they're like, just tell me what it is, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
It's pretty common in art making and in class and a lot of things people are not accustomed to that sort of play. And I think as a maker, like it might be my job to comfort them. Or some other people would say it's not their job to comfort them and they can just hit them hard and they'll go and the people will deal how they deal,
Mm.
you know? But I personally don't like to send an audience away feeling afflicted. I would rather like magnetize a little bit and give them a few familiarities. Like I've had concerts where I've purposefully some 21 and up concerts shows where I've like passed away around whiskey as part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
As everyone's just like sharing a bottle of whiskey around and I'm just like, okay, yeah, we're gonna chill out. I've made yeah, I've done concerts that are it's funny, after the music, I'm calling them concerts. You can call it a dance concert.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it a show, you can call it a performance, you can call it a piece, whatever. Anyways, um, I've gone on ones that are on bicycles, so there's like a bicycle ride element to it. I've put on shows that were in the middle of the woods, so there was a hiking element to it. So, and I also put on shows where we combined it with another event. So we would ask a like yoga community to do their yoga class right in front of our show, or a drawing community to draw us while we're dancing. And so we were experimenting with bringing in communities that were already formed and just letting them do their stuff in our space of performance and get to see a dance show. So I'm always experimenting with it, like constantly.
That's so neat. Um,
That's sometimes like the best way to bring awareness too, because if you're already getting a group who's already acquainted with one form of art or one form of movement experience, whether it's hiking or yoga, you can bridge it a little bit. Yeah, or
Yeah.
even something as simple as here's some whiskey, now enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Probably goes a long way.
Yeah, for some people, for sure.
um, I feel like this is kind of related. You said something the other day in class that I thought that was so interesting, that dance is kind of considered the little sister of the arts. And that made me start thinking about like being a musician, because I kind of feel like music is like the big brother. I don't know
Mm.
if you feel this way, Fanning.
I haven't really thought about the family hierarchy.
Yeah, I mean, they just say it because often say you have like National Endowment of the Arts giving out money to visual artists and to the musicians, and then they're like, oh yeah, yeah, and dance and theater is big up there too. Maybe I don't know the exact ranking, but this afterthought of sending money to the dance arts is definitely real and has repercussions about how dancers respond, and sometimes it's a little eager, if I can explain it, in that, they're like willing to do things for free. Like, please just
Um,
come, you know.
yeah.
And sometimes people are like, no, like this is proper, this is quality, this is part of what society needs, and I want to, be I want at least like a respect exchange that is of value, if not money.
Yeah. That makes
It's
Yeah.
your
sense.
due.
So, how did you get into dance? Why dance? Why not? Because, I mean, I guess you do make other art, but why is dance like the one for you?
I mean, how I started is probably how most everybody starts. Although I don't know how you both started with movement, because I was like a, you know, little 4-year-old doing tap dance.
Aw.
What about you two?
With dance specifically?
Yeah.
Well, I was put into like a tap and tumbling class when I was
Yeah.
maybe a second grader. It didn't last very long because I wanted to be in ballerina shoes and a tutu. And so I got out of there when I realized it wasn't too serious.
Huh? That's amazing.
Coming back in college was really, yeah, my first, I'll try dance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think I was in ballet when I was really little, for like a little bit. I want to say my sister like bit another girl, so we didn't get to go back or something.
Ah, oh no. My sister was a biter too.
Oh, yeah. And then in high school, I was in like marching band, and there was like minimal dance elements in that, I guess. And then I did winter guard, which is like inside color guard, the flag
Yeah.
waving.
Uh-huh.
I did that for one season, and I learned like what tendu means and that sort of thing.
Oh.
But honestly, your class is like the first like dance class I feel like I've ever taken.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so crazy to hear because I see you all moving and it feels like it's in you, like I'm like, if I can't believe that. But I mean, with your move, you probably move in other ways with like the color guard and then whatever else kind of physical activity you're into. Like it informs it, but still, that's pretty exciting. A lot of people just start in college,
Mhm.
and don't even have your backgrounds and having tried a little bit of movement.
I think it also, maybe Fanning, you might agree with this, but I think being a musician or like having some kind of artistic background, it definitely translates. Especially in your class, it's not like there's a ton of like rules, it's more about expression.
Hmm.
We were improvising on like day one, which I always think is like the coolest thing. I think that we practice in music and like other arts being vulnerable and expressing ourselves. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people have to learn to do if they've like never done something
Hmm.
like that.
I hear you.
I think also having friends in the class is a good thing and a bad thing depending on where you're at. Like
Yeah.
individually, like I'm a little bit older than most of the students in our class. And so like having a peer with me is just very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Like having known Sally before we started class. But I feel like, with other people who aren't necessarily as secure on their own 2 feet, they're only in the first couple years of college, like
Mhm.
being with peers, whether they know them or not, is really challenging for, expressing themselves fully. So
Yeah, for sure. And you hear the giggles and,
Yeah. That would
you
have been
know,
me if I was 18 in that class, for sure.
it
Like,
all comes out in the wash. It's okay.
yeah.
Whatever. There's a lot going on in there, right?
Yeah.
Like people are having good days. People are feeling uncomfortable. People are feeling themselves. People are lost with the phrase. People are, so it's just, like and that's part of what I love, like leading those spaces. I don't mind chaos. Like I'm kind of like, yeah, this is good. Even though I actually really enjoy organizing things. But that's because I have a comfort with chaos. So I'm all down. Like bring it. It's all there. Good,
Mm-hmm.
good, good.
I love it. Wait, I did something. I had like a weird class where we had to do this thing where we like it was a French horn studio class and we had to like put our hands on each other's shoulders and look each other in the eye silently for like 2 minutes. And of course, it was like impossible to do that without laughing. But they were
Right.
saying like, part of releasing whatever you need to release is like maybe that comes out in laughter for you, you know?
Yeah.
So
I
I
think
think
that's a
that's cool.
healthy way to look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So back to dance.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Why? So we know how you got into dance. Why modern dance? Why not ballet or jazz or something else?
Because I'm a misfit. Because all the misfits come to modern dance. Um, I used to do competition dance.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I've told you that.
I don't think so.
So I was like competing, like moves, highly choreographed music, in mostly the form of jazz, but also tap and lyrical and whatever. And it was a really good community for me and everything. And I loved the movement. I still loved that stuff, but um, I wasn't the strongest technical dancer. I like didn't have the best flexibility or the tightest turns, or I didn't do any acrobatic tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So where I excelled instead actually was in what they called at the time character dance,
Mm.
which is basically, this makes me laugh that this is what I excelled, but nobody told me that this is what it was. It's lip singing. It's drag.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Like it's characters, so you're singing or pretending to sing, you're lip singing, and you're dancing out like you're on Broadway, except you're not actually singing. And so I like to say that I excel in drag work. Um, and what am I saying? Oh, I knew that I wanted to go to school for dance. I didn't want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that most schools were modern focused. They're either modern or ballet, mostly. Although now I feel like schools are doing better and opening up to other forms like ballroom and jazz and hip hop can be a major or commercial dance too. But for me, at my time, it was going to be modern. So I was like, oh yeah. And so I started taking modern dance class a little bit outside of my competition studio,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of high school. And my competition friends would make fun of me and say, "Do you roll around in leaves all day?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." But I really loved it. And so I went to school for it. And that's where modern dance took on. And that's where I stayed.
I love it. What
Hmm.
what do you what is the difference between modern and contemporary dance? This is Fanning's question. I'm stealing it.
Sorry.
Sure. I feel like we talked about it once before because it's a tricky question.
Yeah.
Um, I find modern and contemporary to be exchangeable words,
Uh-huh.
personally. However, if I was noticing the trends in right now in North Carolina, I think someone would associate contemporary dance with highly physical, music driven, so you think you can dance sort of
Mm.
expressions.
Mhm.
And I think they would connect modern with like a more old school form with like floor work and patience and weight of the body and you know what else is there? Sometimes it's weird stuff though, like modern dance can be performance art too. So, but that's just here and now. If you went to New York City and you looked for contemporary dance, you're not going to see so you think you can dance stuff. You're going to see modern dance that looks more closely related to ballet. In fact, most ballet companies, when they do a contemporary piece, that's like what they would call doing a modern piece, but they're not much on the floor or anything or upside down. It's pretty upright. It's just like instead of a perfectly round arm, you'll like suddenly see like an angle or swing or a spine undulation. There'll be little things, but then you'll recognize the ballet vocabulary right away. And lastly, if you were outside of this country, everything is called contemporanea in South America, and in Europe, often it's called contemporary also. So not an answer.
No, it's a great answer.
Good answer.
Yeah. So, okay, you mentioned one time that you were kind of like anatomy focused, and you've talked about anatomy a couple times in class, but where did that come from?
I love anatomy. So anatomy was like a big change for me in my dance learning. I honestly was getting a little bit bored with dance training. Probably happened somewhere when I first moved to San Francisco, and maybe I was like 23, 24, something like that. And I was just like, I can't hear someone give me the same empty metaphor ever again. 'Cause there's certain metaphors that everybody uses, and you're just like,
Tell
do you
us
even know
one.
where that came
Yeah, give it.
from?
What's one?
Oh, like they'll say, have a string out the top of your head.
Yeah, I've even heard that one.
Yeah, or they'll say like, feel your pelvic floor. And I'd be like, do you know what your pelvic floor is? And there's just some go-tos. And so I was taking class a lot with Kathleen Hermsdorf, who I tell you all about all the time.
Uh-huh.
And she had a sub, and the sub's name was Kira Kirsch. And Kira Kirsch came in, and Kira's from Germany, but was living in San Francisco at the time and taught this class. And I was like, that. And it turned out that she was doing a form based on principles through the Axis Syllabus.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm certified in, Axis, as in like axes that you turn around. And so then I went and like started hardcore training with her, and the Axis Syllabus that she was teaching is all based on anatomy. And I just suddenly was like, ooh, my brainy side, because I like intellectual stuff. I like deep thinking about things, was being served. And then my body eventually became served from it, because to be honest, it took a while to make the connections. And now it's my lifeline. It's like how I survive in dance is to have a somatic entrance, which is entrance based on anatomy into dance. Yeah.
I love that because I don't know too much about dance, but I know enough to know that like sometimes dancers are asked to do things that are like literally impossible, like your bones don't go that way. And I like how like you've shown us in class like you have to bend this way if you want your foot to like go up at this angle or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
It's crazy to me that that's like, I don't know, kind of, it seems like a new idea. I don't know if I'm wrong about that.
It's getting more popular. It's not new, but it was never it's still not the popular thing to do. Like all of those competition studios don't think about it at all.
Yeah.
My mind didn't anyways. And injury comes. Now I have like some chronic injuries from that time in my dancing that I'm like slowly working at. You too? Oh no.
Oh, you do, Fanny?
Oh, artistic swimming is very on that metaphor game. Yeah, doing a lot of training my body to do a lot of things that it's just not supposed to do. And I was very close to doing many of those things, and I'm suffering consequences. It's funny though, because I learned how to use my body really efficiently and really smartly in a weight room, for example. Yeah, but then you get to other things just like hyperflexibility or, not properly like heating up your body before using it, just because, if you're flexible enough, you should be able to do it.
Right.
So, 15 minutes of warm up should be enough. But if you're in a freezing pool, your body doesn't really get to that point. You end up putting all over.
I bet like and also it's like there's a lot of camaraderie in those teams and stuff. My team's too, competition, but like there's not a lot of, at least in my experience of the teams that I was on in dance, being like, hey, everybody, like I need to take care of myself for a moment. Like, just hold on a second while I make sure that I'm not hurting myself. Instead, it's just like, I'm showing up for the team and everything is fun and exciting and supportive.
Well, and the funny thing is once we got to the college level, it was like the emphasis turned from like, when I was a little bit younger, my coach was a physical therapist, so she really cared about our body health. But once I got to the college level, they cared if you had a concussion. It was like
Mm.
a whole different, like you stop swimming if you get kicked in the head. Otherwise, you keep going. If you see spots, you keep going. So it's, is a whole different kind of, you're going to push yourself because you're at this level in quotes, you know.
Never even thought about how many concussions probably happen in that sport art.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hear you on I'm glad that the focus is shifting in the dance world, and I hope it shifts for the extremity sports
I hope so
or
too. I think
arts.
it is. I mean, there's PTs that work with teams,
Oh,
so that's got to be good. And there are, um, I know that there, like, I mean, I know people who do, for instance, Alexander technique often work in the music world. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, but can you explain for the listeners?
Oh, sure. Alexander technique is another somatic approach. When I say somatic, it just basically means anything that's considering the health and longevity of a body. So it's based on anatomy. But Alexander, what can I tell you? I don't have so much experience in it, but quite often it's about posture. Um, and so you'll spend a lot of time slowly just like reestablishing the oh gosh, I'm doing a bad job. Reestablishing where you're holding and letting that go kind of thing, where like you don't need that. So you're just trying to do things quite efficiently. So if you have like, say you're a violinist and you're like constantly, look at me holding a violin. This is awful. I don't know. Pretend I'm holding a violin.
I can't see you, so I'll just imagine it's really.
Oh, great. And you're just like all swooshed, like, your neck is cramped and everything. Well, you start having holding patterns in your body. Then your fascia learns how to be like, oh, is this what we're doing? Okay, cool. And then they're just like mold. And
Yeah.
and that's where chronic injuries start to come from. So Alexander is trying to be like, hey, you can reset back to neutral, which is a space for being ready to change. Yeah.
Yeah. Alexander's. I feel like Alexander too, kind of like I took an Alexander class, and that was another class where they like wheeled out the skeleton man, and I feel like I always know it's gonna be a good day when like the little skeleton comes out,
Oh,
because
cute.
I feel like I learned so much about like your elbow like can't go that way, like you're trying to do something that your body can't do, like, and it like showing you like the bones and being like,
Yeah.
this is the ones that are here, like I don't know, you can't make like a rounded arm.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good example.
Yeah.
Totally. That's cool. I would love to come to a music Alexander class, like either for vocals, they do them, or for posture and holding your instruments. I've seen a little bit of both.
Yeah. It's so so cool. You should talk to the Alexander professor on campus. I feel like you guys would vibe.
I didn't know there was an Alexander professor.
There is. That's how I took the class. She's French and cool.
Ah, I'm totally gonna find her. I wonder if she does sessions.
She does. She does.
Cool. On the
Anyway.
off that.
uh okay, so I kind of like I have more questions, but I wanted to give you a chance to just like go off on dance, I guess, because I feel like I don't know, like there's no way I'm gonna like know everything to ask, and I feel like what would you say to the average person who like knows nothing about dance, about I guess modern dance?
Can I be specific to modern dance?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, average person who doesn't know that much about modern dance.
Hello.
It's okay. Most people don't know a lot about modern dance. But if you are interested in a forgiving space with a sense of community and self-awareness, you might just like modern dance. It is a special space where within a class, there's performance, there's somatic realizations about yourself, there's connection making with those around you, there's problem solving, there's, of course, emotion and emoting. There's, oh my gosh, there's so much there. And I think it's fun. I think it's very fun. And you maybe like, because all modern dance, it can be really different depending who your teacher is. So if you're not vibing with your teacher, then you're probably not going to like their class. So go find another modern dance teacher because they're probably, there's a chance that you could like theirs. We are not all teaching the same thing. There are trends between us, but we all bring a lot of ourselves to it and what's important to us. And so if you say like take a dance with someone who was in a touring company, a major touring company all the time, and their whole world was like going around the world and doing the same rep, then what's important to them is like the livelihood of that rep piece. And they want to teach it and they want to keep it going. And that's cool. Like that could be somebody's bag, But yeah, modern dancers are heroes and they're always good at something else besides modern dance. I've never met a modern dancer who doesn't have another talent.
Like another dance talent or like another.
Usually it's in the arts, but it could also be something like I just found out that the ballet teacher at school, Regina, she makes stained glass.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, like who'd have thought? And you just start to like listen to people and you're like, what? You also do that? And and so I would say they're generalists. Like people are willing to be exposed, like you were saying before, not knowing and being an amateur in other realms and trying stuff and being like, oh, I like this. And that's how I'm with singing and music making and stuff, because I'm like, well, this is not really like what I'm trained in, but I really like it and I can use my skills from improvising and musicality. And I'm like, oh, let's go.
I've had
Yeah.
like music teachers say that like musicality and I guess artisticness is something that you can't teach. Like you can always train somebody to like learn the technical ins and outs of like I don't know, the
Mhm.
oboe or something, or I guess dancing. But people either have musicality or they don't. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but what do you think of that?
About musicality.
Yeah, I guess like artisticness. Like,
Oh, artisticness across the board. Everyone has it for sure.
you think so?
Creativity, everyone has it. Absolutely. They might not have ever had the space to feel free to express it, but I'm certain. I mean, look at any kid that you've ever met.
Yeah,
They're awesome.
yeah.
Musicality, I'm not an expert on musicality. I understand that some people feel it, like, man, like if music is on, it's the main character in the room for me. I'm just like we have to we have to wait for the downbeat or we have to sweep with the tenderness of this piece or whatever. So I'm coded in musicality, but I've seen people who are more riding over it and aren't as engulfed in its waves. And yet I think that they could sensitize themselves to it. Yes, I do. I just think that they need to learn how to receive,
Mm, yeah.
I
listen,
love Yeah, I love that word you use, sensitize, because I feel like it is just that. It's like you've like cut off your connection to your creativity or your play or your willingness to try something like that. So you
Yeah.
to like swim back out there and see if you can tread for a minute and then maybe go back to shore and try again a different day. But you gotta like, you gotta build your ability to get into it a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think the same is probably for musicality because, some people might have perfect pitch, but it doesn't mean they feel rhythm. And other babies are, born dancing instead of walking. So,
Cool. I would love to like learn more about that. That's awesome.
I know, right? I kind of think that musicality and artisticness are the same thing, that they just kind of manifest like in different ways.
Mm,
I don't know. Like I think it all comes from expression of like the self and like being vulnerable in some way.
mm.
Anyway, can you give us a brief history of dance?
A brief history of dance. Oh
I
my
know, I'm
gosh.
sorry, that's like impossible to do. But
All dance.
how about okay, I guess modern dance.
I couldn't I could never give you a history of dance, of all dance.
Yeah.
I could never. Um, and could I give you a history of modern dance? I can give you a very imperfect, full of holes version, um, which is sort of like there was a place called America, and it had lots of different people living there from Europe, from Africa, native folks, everybody. And they all had movement practices of their own desires. And they all started to mix together in and oh gosh, where can this go? They all mix together and create different forms of dance. Honestly, hip hop dance, Irish step dancing, synchronized swimming, like this dance bubble is going to go in different directions. The part that went in the modern dance direction was led by a lot of feminists, women who wanted to move for nature and for just expressing themselves. And they did not want to play the roles of the typical woman. They did not want to be confined by the clothes of a typical woman. And they didn't even want to be seen as like, weak or fairy-like or anything like that. So then, yeah, so they took their shoes off and they started dancing. And it all kind of goes from there, from those strong women during the suffrage moment. And then, like, they did good things and they did bad things. They appropriated stuff and they had, or they had good intentions and appreciation. It was a little bit of everything. And it was all because of the time they were in. Um, and, and yeah, and people kept dancing and falling right behind major art movements and then being like, okay, let's do it too and dance. It's kind of a overarching summary of that. And and yeah, and then people were using dance for everything. They were using dance to like show how powerful a nation was or how rich a king was. That's more ballet. But they were also using dance to tear it all down. So you see it on all sides of the coin, and it's like so uncontainable. It's like it's dance, it's like life, it's like everywhere. When you start, but there was this trend, just to get a little more specific, there was this trend of leaders in the dance field, people who were performing on stage a lot, that they wanted to codify techniques. They wanted their name to be attached not just to their performance, but also to a technique, a practice that people would then all learn and replicate and keep their, what is that, legacy moving on. And so there's lots of people who do that. I feel like I'm not naming one person. I can't, because I can't set any of them above the others in this very short rendition of modern dance. But here we are, and modern dance lives in commercials, and modern dance lives on stages, and modern dance lives in public schools, and now modern dance is living in academia. And I don't know, like there was a couple of people who fought for it to be in academia. But the reason that it has come to be like considered an intellectual form in school has a lot to do with whiteness and has a lot to do with privilege of that, because I don't otherwise see why modern dance and ballet dance are the forms in academia and not like, breakdancing or whatever, or Latin forms. It's like there's a reason. Okay. And anyways, here we are.
I think the
Modern
same.
dance.
I think the same thing about music, because like if you get a music degree, it's for the most part in like Western art music.
Yes.
Whereas like I feel like most Americans, because I guess I'm just talking about America, is like we listen to like rap and hip hop and pop and I don't know, like 70s jams and like all sorts of things and classical music, and it's like why is that the one that, but I say that but
Oh,
I contributed to it,
go
but
take your history of music course that you're probably taking.
yeah.
I'm sure they'll tell you exactly who knew who.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like you got 3 semesters of white music history, and then you got half of 1 semester of there's world music.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
All of the world in a half a semester.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
They try to stop doing that in academia now. There's a trend. I
That is,
think
yeah, it's true.
I think that the school will catch up eventually.
Yeah.
I hope.
I don't know, because my undergrad was at a different school, so I actually didn't take history here, but
Oh,
I don't know. Fanning,
you
you're a GA for music history, aren't you? For
I,
world.
I'm a GA for world music, but we
Uh-huh.
did take a music history placement exam when we got here, and we didn't have to know a
Oh.
single color person. We only had to know
Yeah.
maybe 5 women out of 70 composers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
I
pretty
know
bad.
music was struggling with that for sure, like changing the representation. Um, yeah, I mean, even just to call it Western forms and then world music is kind of offensive,
Uh-huh.
because it's like, okay, Western forms are world music too.
Well, and it's like students who don't study music and then take world music almost think they're studying world music history. They don't really like their world is not big enough that they don't realize that these are all different cultures that are making music.
Yeah.
But we try our best.
um. Oh, okay. I just have a few more questions. But
Sure.
one of them is kind of unrelated, but kind of related, which is what do you think of North Carolina? Fanning and I are also like semi new here.
Wait, where are you all from?
I'm from Texas.
I'm from Ohio.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Don't be mad at me, Fanny. I went to the University of Michigan.
Oh, I won't be mad. I'm not
Yeah.
a I'm not a nationalist kind of person, so I don't
Okay.
take school pride seriously at all.
You, but I never cared enough. North Carolina is awesome. I am, I mean, I'm in our bubble and I like it.
Yeah.
Like our little mountain town bubble of who makes up the people in this region. So that is awesome. I have been in more progressive spaces in the past. I've spent most of my time in the San Francisco, Oakland area. And so, you know, um, it's like a little bit of a culture shock, some stuff for sure. But I think it's good for me to like understand what is out there and not continue my bubbleness. Yeah, and people are awesome, and people say yes, ma'am to me, which is sweet, and in it, which I think
In
is
it.
awesome. In it. And I've
Where did,
started to say y'all more, so
Aw.
where did you live before San Francisco?
I'm from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, is Buffalo? So Buffalo's kind of rural, isn't it? Am I?
Nope.
Oh, I'm totally off on that one.
I mean, there's definitely rural. It's cool. There's rural parts of it.
Uh-huh.
Buffalo's a city.
Oh.
It's like a small city, like but used to be a super major city. It just is a little economically depressed. But you can compare it to somewhere like Detroit. It's kind of like
Um.
if you know anything about Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you with the bubble thing. I feel like I don't know. I grew up in like a very different bubble, like a non-progressive one, and then I went to college, and I don't know. I feel like being outside of your bubble definitely like expands your horizons a lot. And I
Yeah,
think, yeah, for me it was a good thing. I think,
that's
um,
awesome.
but also, I mean, I guess there is some like, you know, if the bubble is where you're safe, then maybe you should be in the bubble.
That's real. I
Okay.
know. I do have like little guardrails on my choices in life about
Mm.
trying to head towards places where me and my partner can be safe, right?
Yeah, right. Sam, if you had to split your life into the before and the after, how specific can you get into the moment that it splits? Like,
Oh,
can you
and
go down to the minute?
no.
Hey,
I I
you're like,
saw
tell us what happened that ruined.
I know. I don't think I could. I mean, life is long.
Yeah.
Life is long, and sometimes the eras don't get named until after the fact, like way after the fact.
Yeah.
And like, of course, when I left home when I was 18 has to count for something, right?
Uh-huh.
Or when I decided I wanted to move to California because I had gone on a big bicycle tour and was like, I've been living outside of my bicycle for 7 months. I want to live outside all the time. And so I was not going to go to the East Coast. I was like, I'm going to go where weather and dance is good. So that was a big one. And, I don't have any, like, if I had a kid, I'd be like, easy, I got this. But I do not.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that. Those are two big moments.
So there's three parts to your life so
Yeah,
far.
maybe it's a 3 act.
But there's more.
Maybe
So far, so far.
there's several
But
parts.
yeah, there's Buffalo Sam.
Mhm.
It sounds funny. Buffalo Sam. Um, there's Buffalo Sam. There's Oakland Sam. I love Oakland Sam. Like she's important to me.
Yeah.
And there is like this after Oakland Sam who's a little like getting into academia for the first time since undergrad, um, in the last 3 years.
Mhm.
So she doesn't know who she is yet.
Yeah. I know. That's like such a. Everybody hates me for that question because it's so like. But that was a
Yeah,
great
it's a
answer.
tough one. Do you all feel like you have those right now?
Well, I just ask other people. I don't ever answer it myself, so.
That's fair.
Fanning, do you have an answer?
For my before and after,
Yeah.
uh, I feel like there's definitely not a moment. I feel like I'm like either in a period of transition or it's recently ended and I'm like starting part two. But again, I don't know how long life's gonna be, so it could just be a two-parter. It could be a four-parter.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been I feel like the last couple of years were definitely transition period.
Hmm.
Cool.
Well, thank you both for joining me. This is such a fun little project, and I
Yay.
don't know. It's
I'm
just
so excited for you. Or
me.
you're good at this.
Oh, thanks. I
Told
don't know
you,
about that.
dancers have other talents. Well, plus all your music.
Aw, stop, stop. Okay,
Cool.
I'm gonna stop recording. So that was our dance episode. Thank you so much, Sam and Fanning, for coming on, and thank you, dear listener, for listening. Stay tuned for the next couple of episodes. We've got, cool stuff coming up, I promise. Anyway, if you liked this podcast, put up your Christmas decorations and paint your toenails. Bye.